You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz, in which I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry, all to provide you with education and inspiration. Do you want to attract more of your ideal clients and book more weddings? Well, today's episode is sponsored by Book More Weddings Summit, and I vet every sponsor exhaustively and totally endorse this conference, which is free if you mention my name. The Book More Weddings Summit is happening August 22nd to August 26th, and in a little while, I'll tell you more about it. In the meantime, you can go ahead now and sign up for your free ticket by typing in bookmoreweddingssummit.com/Andy. That's bookmoreweddingssummit.com/Andy. And if you missed last week's episode, it was a revisit of my original interview of Rishi Patel from a few years ago, and it is still as pertinent now as it was then. It was really an amazing conversation. So today's guest is Jeannie Young Savage, president of Details Weddings and Events. Details is a premier full-service event planning and design company specializing in distinctive weddings, lavish events, and corporate functions. Prior to opening Details in 2003, Jeannie was the general manager of several full-service hotels, which included managing 200 employees and dealing with over 40 vendors. Details has been featured in numerous publications, including People Magazine, Martha Stewart Weddings, Inside Weddings, Grace Ormond, and Say Yes to the Dress TV show. Enjoy this conversation with Jeannie Young Savage. Jeannie, it's so good that we were able to work this out. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
You know, first thing I wonder is, when did you first feel the passion for doing event design, and how did it manifest? Like at a really young age by chance, or not till later?
No, not till later. I mean, I was always super crafty. My mom was working all the time, but when she did have time, she would teach me how to sew. So I feel like my mom is a woman of many talents, even though she may not come across that way because she's a very quiet, reserved Taiwanese lady. So she's kind of like the type that's like, she's doesn't speak unless she's spoken to. Like she's really, really reserved. But she was great at catering to my dad and my brother and I while also working. And so I think as a young child, I did enjoy arts. I did love art classes, everything from charcoal sketching to acrylic paints to ceramic class, whatever I could take for those fun summer classes, those recreational classes I did. But I didn't really do much arts at all during high school and college. I did mostly sports and just focus on school, really. I think being a Asian immigrant, the whole focus is to get into like some sort of great school and then go to grad school, become a doctor or lawyer.
Right. Sounds like I'm Jewish. It sounds like my side of the family.
Yeah. And I didn't do any of that. So I went to UCI, I got 2 degrees, but I didn't end up going to law school. I ended up going into hospitality. So I was mostly in restaurant and hotel management.
Well, I know that before you started your company, which was 2003, that before that, weren't you general manager for some hotels?
Yeah, I was. I was the youngest general manager for Hilton International. I used to have to wear my hair up in like a bun, and I would have to wear fake pearls, because I wasn't making that much money. I was wearing fake pearls, and I was wearing hosiery every day, super conservative. And I was trying really hard to look like I was in my 30s, because I was only in my 20s when I took over these properties. And I had a couple hundred employees, but I had to act the part, and I had to kind of like because most of my department heads, most of my executive team was twice my age. So they're all in their 40s to 50s. And I think being in my 20s, I really had to make sure I worked harder and I worked longer hours than them.
Well, I'm thinking also 20 years ago, also being a woman. I mean, there's still issues even now, but 20 years ago, being in a management position with men who are a lot older than you, that had to be a challenge.
Definitely. It was very rare to have a female in Hilton International, and also Asian too. So I think for me, it was I would go to these conferences and there's like hundreds of general managers, all the way from Hilton to DoubleTree to Embassy Suites, Hampton Inn, like everybody, every brand across the family of brands, all the GMs would be there. And I remember at one point I was getting pushed out of like the sushi line because I think I felt like these like German GMs and these European GMs were just like very aggressive. And they're kind of looking at you like, why are you here? Like, aren't you just kind of like the help? Were you part of registration? But there was definitely a lot of that where I don't think women general managers, we weren't really revered. We weren't really looked upon, I think, for, I don't know. I just felt like we were just definitely still like the shadow, amongst all of these men.
Yeah, I understand. Well, what were some of the learning highlights? What do you still carry with you today that you learned from those days in those positions?
Yeah, I would say that you definitely have to work really hard. You can't just say you own the company because you don't own the company at that time, but you own your career. So in order to, I think, excel, you had to work longer hours than everybody else. And I think in hotels, it's really easy for people to come in and work that 9 to 5, and people have their spouses to go home to, their significant other, and they're gone. But the hotel gets busy after 5. We get our check-ins between 4 and 7. We get that rush of the flights coming in. So I always wanted to make sure to stay for like the big influx of check-ins and then the start of dinner service. So I think for me during that time, working a lot of those hours really helped me understand when it comes to owning a business and also be able to work the hours that I work now, because some of my wedding days are 12 hours long, 12 to 14 hours. So if you think you're going to have like an 8-hour job and you also have to give up weekends in hotels, it's a 24/7. They never close. It's like a hospital, right? So there's always something potentially that you need to be awake or aware of. And I think with weddings and working these weekends, it's very similar schedule to working hotels.
So it sounds like it gave you the discipline and the organizational kind of structure to be able to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think it did. I think that's a really good observation, but you said it perfectly. I think it gave me that to allow me to do what I do now.
So when you did start your company, I can't remember where I saw it, but I read somewhere that you had just given birth to a daughter and you're starting your company at the same time. I mean, my God, Jeannie, I don't know how.
Yeah, I'm divorced now, but back then when I got married, I got pregnant and started a company. The baby, I wasn't planning to have the baby right away, but it happened. And I remember I was speaking with a client and she was really cute because she had like a really cute celebrity name, but she wasn't a celebrity. Her name was Gina Davis. And she was like, she's like, when can we meet? I said, I'm about to go into the hospital. I'm about to like check in because I'm about to give birth. And she's like, well, when do you think you're going to be out? And I was like, I don't know, this is my first, so maybe give me a few days. So I remember speaking to her and then I met with her. I think I checked out of the hospital. I gave birth on Sunday. I think I checked out on Tuesday. And I remember I was meeting her on Thursday.
Oh, come on. And you actually did meet her on Thursday?
Yeah, I didn't realize I couldn't fit into like shoes. So I had to wear these like these closed-toed sandals. And I remember walking into the Montage Laguna lobby and I was wearing kind of like a stretchy skirt, like a stretchy maxi skirt, because I didn't realize how swollen I would be, from everything. And I just remember I just was walking into the lobby feeling like the baby was still in me. I already gave birth, but I feel like I didn't lose all that water weight. I feel like I was still really heavy. And I just remember walking in on that Thursday to meet with her. So yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, when I started my company, I had I think it was a 4-year-old daughter. Yeah, I had a 4-year-old daughter at the time, and I wanted to be a very present father, and that was hard to be able to. I mean, starting a company is kind of like raising a baby.
Yeah, it was simultaneously. It was pretty tough.
Well, and then I also saw that after something like 7 years or so, that you say you lost the work-life, personal life balance. I don't know how you had it in the beginning, but what is it that happened at that time?
I think you are just like in this growth, and you're kind of like, okay, things are great. I'm going to add more people to the company. What can I do to make it stronger and I can make it better? And I think I just lost a lot of that like personal life focus. I have to admit, like, I feel like I couldn't go to my daughter's like dance recitals.
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't go to a lot of the things that were, or kids' birthday parties. Like they start going into these, the second grades when they start going to a lot of these like birthday parties on weekends. And I missed out on all of that. On Saturdays, it was always my ex-husband taking her to these, and he hated it. He really hated it because at that age, you can't do a drop off. You got to stay with your kid. So he said he was just stuck there all the time with all these moms. And I just missed out on it. And as much as I can get the pictures, I get to see, or maybe get the dance recital video, it's not the same. It's not the same to like be in the crowd, with her.
Well, did you figure out some way of managing it so that you could be more present, or did you continue to struggle with that?
No, I think I continue to struggle with it. I think it was all the way through to even where she's at in junior high when she was doing like rock climbing competitions, and they would need to be gone for 2 to 3 days. They'd be gone for the whole weekend. And I just remember getting to these massive fights with my ex-husband saying, I need to know the schedule. I need to know in advance. I need to know like when you're going to sign up for these competitions. I need to know when she's going to be in San Diego because I want to go. And a lot of these things weren't necessarily like a year in advance or 9 months in advance, where weddings are booked sometimes anywhere from 8 to 12 months in advance. So a lot of these things did happen where you might only have like 3 or 4 months notice.
Well, looking back, would you do anything different? If you could?
I think I would. I think, I think it was also hard because I was also the only income. So my husband didn't work.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that was a challenge, I think, for me to feel a lot of pressure to be able to be the sole person, for almost our entire marriage. And I think that was a harder part. I think if I felt that there was other income or other opportunities for that, then I think I'd be able to maybe take on less. Looking back, I still think like I probably am a workaholic just by nature because of my parents and who they were, and my parents having multiple jobs at once. I think I wish I would have maybe said, to take on a little less and hope that weekend is the one weekend that I'm open, that becomes that one dance recital, that one rock climbing competition.
See, that's a tough thing. I mean, that's hard. I've got a music business, and I had the advantage of, if I needed to, if it was really important, to sometimes sub myself out. I would perform, but I was also the MC, the leader of the band, and the person who contacted the client and the party planner ahead of time. And so even for me to miss was, nail biting for me. But you as the planner, it's like you can't really substitute yourself out that easily,
Yeah. I've never missed like a wedding. The only time was right when I gave birth, but those clients knew ahead of time that I was pregnant, and therefore there would be another person running it. But in general, I just haven't missed a wedding out of the 1,000+ weddings that I've done. I just haven't missed one. And I just don't ever plan to miss one. I really don't.
So I'd like to dig in a little bit to some of the details of your wedding work. I know you do all kinds of work, but in terms of weddings, can you think of a story, maybe 1 or 2 favorite stories of how you took the clients through the process from meeting them, figuring out what the design aesthetics would be, and then actually manifesting it?
Yeah, I would say that not even just like one client, but I would say most of our clients who book us, because we have different levels of service. So we have ones that are more what we call like month of, day of service, which I don't service now. We've got girls in our team that do that. But I would say in regards to your question, the full service clients where we can kind of design from beginning to end, it's a process. And I think you have to get to know the clients. And sometimes I think like right when you meet them, your first couple of meetings, you're supposed to shoot out all of these ideas and talk about colors and flowers and all these things. But I can't necessarily do that from day one. There might be some things that I can articulate, or maybe they have some pictures that they want to kind of emulate or we use as inspirational photos. But I think it takes a little while for me to come up with really more unique creative ideas after I've had some time to get to know them. Because wedding planning isn't just be like, oh, I want pink roses or I want white tulips, but it's a little bit more about their lifestyle. It's about like, where does she shop for clothes? Does she wear color? Is she a sporty girl? Is she a girly girl? Like these are all things that you don't necessarily might not know from that very first impression. It takes some time to get to know them and to know, like I have, for example, one bride, she works for a clothing designer. And so she is going to be a little bit more artistic, I think, in what she wants her flowers to look like. She wants it a little bit more free flowing. Some stuff doesn't always necessarily match because I could see what's in her head as far as like, okay, so she wants to juxtapose like something that's hard with something soft. Like, so you start getting to know your client's like personal taste. And then once you get a better understanding of their personal taste, then I feel a little bit more comfortable to start presenting ideas.
Can I stop just for a second though? So in order to find out that information, are you meeting in your office with them? Are you going to their homes? Are you going to restaurants? Like it sounds, it's a process.
Combination. Yeah, you have to do it all. You have to have phone calls. You have to have side conversations. You have to have in-person meetings. You definitely have to like go and grab coffee, or you see each other maybe at a floral meeting, but that floral meeting is just kind of like the start of discussion. And then you start building upon that. So it is a combination of everything from, pictures that they might show you to conversations to meeting over coffee.
In terms of the inspiration for you, let's say that you've done that or you're in the process and you're getting ideas. I mean, do you tend to, wake up in the middle of the night, write them down? Are you sitting down at a desk and saying, okay, now I'm going to sit and really focus on this? Like how does the creative process work for you?
I think for mine, it pops up. I think like I remember one time, there's this bride named Cassie, and we were talking about things that she loves and things that she does. And she was saying her and Brandon go and grab donuts every Sunday. That was their thing. Sunday morning, they walk the dogs and they go to a local coffee shop and they grab a donut. That's like their fun thing. And so we were talking about like, oh, do we hand out donuts? Like, should we do that as a late night snack? What should we do? And literally in the middle of the night, I remember saying, oh my God, I want to build her a donut wall.
Oh, a donut wall. That's interesting.
I think this was the first donut wall. I don't know if I could take 100% credit, but I feel like I could take 99% credit. I don't think everybody's ever built a donut wall before. And it went viral like on Pinterest and social media. But I remember saying, I'm going to build a donut wall and I'm going to let people grab their own donuts for like whether they want to eat it there or take it to go as breakfast. We'll get boxes. And then I started researching different companies. I found a company called Donut Snob in LA who doesn't sell to they sell to restaurants, but they don't have a retail store. So that's what made it more unique because it was like a donut that you can't just go into like a Winchell's or, Dunkin' where you just go buy the donut. So I was trying to find a manufacturer that creates donuts, these beautiful, amazing, beautiful donuts. And all I know is what it looked like. I didn't know what it tasted like. And then I had to call them to see if they would sell it to me in bulk, which they did because that's what they do for restaurants. And then I had to figure out what restaurants they sell it to so I could actually go taste it. So I remember I was driving to downtown LA. They're like, oh, we sell it to this one bake shop in Koreatown. And they're like, but we don't know what flavors they have by the time you get there. So I just remember I drove around to like 2 or 3 locations to try to find their donuts based on who they sold it to. And then I would taste it and I was like, okay, this is amazing. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to build the donut wall and offer this.
That's fun. Since you're listening to this podcast, it's obvious that you want to find new ways to improve your wedding business. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about the Book More Weddings Summit. During this online conference, which is free if you mention my name, you'll learn how to more easily book more weddings by hearing from over 20 industry experts, including my past podcast guests, Heidi Thompson, host of this event, and Julie Novak, CEO of Party Slate, along with more. Attract your dream clients, stand out from the competition, and make more money without working more hours, and sign up for this online conference August 22nd to the 26th, which again is free if you mention my name. Register for this free ticket at bookmoreweddingssummit.com/Andy. That's bookmoreweddingssummit.com/Andy. I know you've done some celebrity weddings. You did, I believe, Chance the Rapper and Kristen Corley, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, she was amazing. And I did most of the planning with her. She said, I think she was looking for a dress, and she realized, like, after she got a dress, everything else just started to feel overwhelming to her. And because they lived in Chicago, got married out here in California, I think she really wanted to have a local planner to help guide her with different vendors and recommendations, because she really was planning from remote, and she was really only going to make like 1 or 2 trips out here before her wedding. So we built a great relationship, and she was just really trusting. She was very relaxed. We sent her some stuff. We met with her, showed her things in person. And she was like, you know what? This is your wheelhouse and this is your specialty. And like, I'll let you continue going forward with everything. And I would just get her approvals on the menu cards or show her different things, and she would just sign off. She was really, honestly, a delight to work with. And Chance, my major communication with him was just his surprises for her. So he let her do like all the planning and pretty much everything, but music, of course, with his career and his passion, was important. So he brought in a gospel choir.
Okay.
So he flew in a gospel choir from Chicago, and the tricky part was trying to set up all the gear, because all she knew is there was a DJ. So you can imagine like all these microphones, all the sound equipment, all these things that are outside of what a small DJ setup would be. So we were trying to hide this from her at the rehearsal, making sure she didn't go to the ballroom. And then we had to fly in the whole group to perform prior to, her being in that area. And then I remember timing it where we would take her out to the ceremony location, the rotunda, and then we would sneak the group in on shuttle and time it where they would do sound check so that they could perform at full harmony and sound while she was outside the building. And then we would stall as long as we can to bring her back, because her getting ready room was underneath her ballroom.
Okay.
So logistically, that was a challenge,
Right.
because it was built. So that was definitely a little bit of a challenge, but we were able to surprise her, and she loved it.
Yeah, she must have been knocked out.
She was in tears. It was great. Yeah.
Do you feel pressure, a different kind of pressure when you're dealing at that level, for celebrities?
No, actually, no. I would say like the NBA stars or the football, or even like, I did a French Open champion, his wife, Amber, the sweetest can be. I would say that a lot of these, athletes and celebrities are sometimes even nicer, or just because I think of what they're exposed to. And I think because they're in the limelight, like I think that they just behave so graciously. I think that they just are so kind, because they're really normal people that are now in a different, they were born like we were all babies, and we're all nobody when we were born. I think they are normal people that have now a different status and a different wealth. But I'd say, at least for my clients, I've been very, very blessed that they are just so kind and so gracious. So I've been lucky, Andy.
What about the business aspect of your work? Obviously, we've been talking about the creative side of things, but, we have to, in the business, in the industry rather, we still have the business structure that we have to put together, and whether or not we decide to have a team and what that's made up of and all of that. How did you, I'm assuming from your work, working with, as a general manager for hotels, you must have learned kind of that corporate structure and get a business sense from that, or how else did you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think understanding everything from like return on investment and looking at, like, I remember when our hotel was doing really great. We had great occupancy, we had great financials. And then the owners were always going to be like, what can we do more? What can we do more? How can we bring more revenue? Right. And they're always going to push for more revenue. So from that perspective, you look at your, advertising, you look at marketing, you look at everything, operations, you look at sales, and you say, you know what, if I brought in another sales manager at this salary, what can I get potentially from this manager? What kind of revenue can they bring in? How many bookings can they bring in? How many groups can they bring in?
Well, and what do you need in order to pay them?
Exactly. So you have to, so I think that definitely gave me a lot of training to understand, ROIs and understanding like where we would want to invest. And I think for the company, when I realized I started turning down business is when I needed to grow.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I think that was kind of like my trigger to say, okay, how many weekends am I booked? I mean, there's only how many weekends a year. And there's weekends that people tend not to get married, although we do get a lot of Thanksgiving weekend requests these days. But I would say there's going to be weekends that people aren't as excited about to have their wedding. But then you start looking at like spring and summer, which are the best weather months, especially in California. And you're like, okay, you start tracking, where leads are coming from. You start tracking where you're starting to turn down business and how many weekends you've turned down. Then that's how you know. Then you're, you know what, now this is the time to grow for someone to bring someone on, because now you're literally leaving money on the table.
Well, and I don't think that a lot of people necessarily dig in that way. I think a lot of people, regardless of what aspect of the event industry they're in, whether it's photography, music, video, whatever it is, floral design, I don't know that a lot of people are really digging into, okay, what is the potential ROI? If I make the decision, how much do I need to spend? What am I going to bring in? In terms of the dates on the calendar, how much do I want to work? How much do I want to make? Okay, this is what I want to make. Therefore, I need working backward. Here's what I should charge. I don't know that a lot of people really dig in.
I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably right, because I think there's not as many companies that have, multiple planners. I'd say businesses, at least I think in my field, is mostly solo planners.
Yeah. And just kind of coming up with a price and taking the work, doing it. It's interesting. Whereas there's some people I've interviewed who have a team, and they get together like on a weekly basis, and they go through the numbers, and they're looking at the profit and the loss and the cost, and they're really taking a hard look at all the details of the numbers, as opposed to just taking a job, working it out, taking the next job, working it out, taking it out. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think just because I was like fortunate to have that hotel experience and not just the experience of being in different levels of management, of sales or operations, but I think being a general manager really allowed me to, that was the education. I mean, UCI was great. Don't get me wrong. I loved college. I had fun. But I had 2 degrees, sociology and political science. And I didn't go to law school. So really my training reels was restaurants and hotel management. That really gave me the tools I think I needed to grow my business now and to actually create this business. So I think definitely that allowed me to use, like you said that before, the discipline.
Yeah. What is your pricing philosophy? Like, do you do a flat fee, a percentage, a combination? How do you look at that?
We do a flat fee. We feel like based off of knowing how many assistants we need, how many days of production. So we're structured based off of flat fee. There's a range within our pricing structure, because let's say you have a wedding at a private estate. Oftentimes that private estate needs a setup the day before, because we're outdoors and we need to do lighting the day before. So we charge a fee for the wedding, and then we charge a fee for the day before setup.
And what if things are added? Do you have it built into your contract that you can add some amount of money? How do you deal with that?
Absolutely. Like we offer like a discounted rate if you wanted to add like a brunch, if you want to add like a Sunday or post-wedding brunch to it. So we do have like rates that we set up for pre and post wedding day events. And then we just add addendums. If they want to add on an event, we just create an addendum for the additional event.
Also, Jeannie, I want to ask you, I noticed that with your social media, particularly Instagram, you're up to just about 60,000 followers. That's pretty powerful. Do you have a philosophy, a strategy when it comes to social media?
Oh, I'm so bad at it, Andy. I really do. I feel like I try to post every day. And then there's some days I skip a couple days. I've been trying to respond to comments when I can, but that is a huge amount of work and it takes up a lot of time. And I feel like I could do better.
Oh my God. You're at 60,000, Jeannie. You're doing really good.
I do feel like I could do better. I could be better in engagement. And I think that some of the other planners I know, Mindy and Jonathan, who are both awesome planners in LA, I maybe should have done what they did and just hired someone.
Yeah. Well, I hear such mixed reviews about that. You hire someone and do they really understand your personality and are they really, that's a tough decision. Have you considered that?
I haven't like, I haven't really dived into like the cost factor of it. I haven't dived into really what, you get out of it. Like for example, because for me, I don't know if it's necessary. I don't feel like I'm not, I wouldn't say eager to have to keep growing followers. I just want engagement. In the sense that like, I just want views. I want people to potentially have target audience, potential brides, potential clients in the future to view it. And I know in order to view it, you have to have followers and you have to have growth. But the algorithms especially with Instagram, is changing so frequently that even though you have that many followers doesn't mean they even view your page. Sometimes you'll have based off of the algorithms and based off of what is being hashtagged or what is hot at that moment, was on trend at that moment. Sometimes I'll look at my insight and I'll have more non-followers like and view that reel than I'll have my own followers. Just the way the algorithms work. So the formulas are just constantly changing and it's just really hard to keep up. And so I feel like the only really way to do it is just to constantly post and then to engage with the comments and then notice what people are commenting on or liking. So you're trying to post some of the same things, but you can't do that. Like I can't just sit there and post like, dresses all day or, if people don't like a bridal bouquet, I still need to pepper that in because I do think that there's things that I find of beauty and I do find as inspiration. So I like to post what I kind of feel like posting. So I don't always follow the rules of the algorithm.
Well, but by posting what you feel like posting, we are getting a better insight into who you are, and what drives you and what inspires you. I like that.
I hope so, but it doesn't follow the Instagram.
Right, not necessarily. So before we go, I'm thinking, next year is your 20th anniversary of your business. You've accomplished so much, Jeannie. Like what's left for you to do? What do you think about?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I just thought when you just said that right now, I was like, yes, because I remember I think I created the business name. Oh my gosh, yes. And wow, yes. And then I guess I really didn't really start really taking on events till maybe like 2005, 2007 was great. 2009 was slow. So you're right. It was a growth. It was a growth.
Well,
but
you've come a long way.
I did create. I remember filling out the application at Reserve then.
Right. Well, so what do you think about for the future? What do you want to be doing maybe that you're not doing now, or what do you want to do more of?
I've been asked about doing things like when it comes to maybe doing speaking or maybe doing more training. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe doing some of that, but I also know that takes some time to travel and that takes away from, being local and being with my clients. So I don't know. I don't have anything specific. I've had people talk about creating a product line, just because I really love aesthetics when it comes to like candles or blankets, or there's different things that I've been asked to kind of like curate or help design. But I don't know. I'm always open. I feel like in this very fast, dynamic world that we live in, you just have to have always your eyes and ears open and never say never. Like really just be like, oh, I would never do that, or that's not my thing, or I would never consider that. I think you always have to have a very open mindset in anything we do in life. Like I've really, like I was one of those like, oh, I don't know if I would have tried that. I wouldn't want to eat that. And I started dating someone who was like, you need to try everything once. And I was like, really? And he's like, you just got to try it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can eat that. It just doesn't look like something I would appetite. Like it's still moving, you know? I'm like, I don't know if I want to eat that. It's still moving. But he's like, you got to try everything once. So I'm definitely take a lot of that philosophy of like, you know what? You're right. You know, if I'm open-minded, if I'm truly an open-minded person, I got to be willing to try that moving thing.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, my last question for you. How do you define success? Well, what does it mean to you?
I think success to me is like being able to feel there's moments of happiness. I think being able to find happiness in what I do, where like I wake up in the morning and I'm not dreading like work. So I think success for me is like I have a wedding tomorrow and I have like the sweetest bride in the greatest family. And it's like, I'm excited to see her today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just excited to see her. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to like celebrate with her and just like really make this wedding for her so beautiful tomorrow and just run it smoothly for her. So I think for me, that I think is like, I feel like I'm successful now because I found happiness in my job and I continue to find happiness in it. And I think I'm in a very fortunate industry where weddings are very happy. So it's a good thing. It's very celebratory. So I'm in a very positive business. So that's with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, gosh, Jeannie, the time has flown. I really appreciate you doing this. And I just really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you.
Same here. Thank you. You are just an excellent interviewer. Like some of the things you were saying and the questions, it really allowed me to think and it really allowed me to think deep. And it wasn't just superficial. I think you were probably the best podcast I've ever had. Like, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it too.
I greatly enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Jeannie Young Savage. Be sure to check out her website, which is aboutdetailsdetails.com. Her social media handle on Instagram is detailsjeannie. And you can check out the show notes with event pics that our guest provided in your cell phone's podcast app or at our website oftheweddingbiz.com. And next week's guest is going to be a brand new interview with my popular podcast guest, Carrie Goldberg. So be sure to tune in again. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do it now for The Wedding Biz so that you know when new episodes are dropped. And you can also follow us on Instagram in particular at The Wedding Biz. And we'll catch you next week